ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Onord.
This is Rangru, low, low, low.
And folks, we are back with Season 7 of the SD2 League. Today on Delta, we have a new friend and an old friend. Rang, tell us about these friends.
Well, on left hand side in the blue, we have UUUU playing Lovas with a Maverick income. Right hand side in red, we have Onord playing Task Force 45 with a Maverick income with a surprising lack of A-Phase Shermans. I hope he noticed that.
Yeah, you know what? Task 45, though, I mean, like, TF45, we haven't seen them. I said to you before we got started, I'm extremely excited to see how this plays out. These guys are an odd amount of power here. At least I would think so anyway, but maybe share with us a little bit more what's going on with you. How do you think this?
Yeah, they're pretty much pretty interesting variety. American Infantry Division, of course, with all the weird gimmick units like the Brazilians and the Japanese. I got the 90mm anti-air/anti-tank gun. Yeah, a pretty standardish infantry division, but they got enough variety to make them quite fun.
Well, it's like seeing the things like the T-70 on here, and of course that's not really a Soviet weapon system. It's just kind of an upgun overall. Wait, what's that coming on in? Okay, an early Havoc. Yes, sir?
Yeah, must just say Hellcat prototype.
Mm-hmm. Well, and of course the Havoc, we've seen the Havoc way back when, not this particular model, but at the same time getting a little bit of recon. I'm actually looking forward to seeing the B-25 Mitchells. I mean, the Mitchell, I think for the longest time we thought was close to it, but not really something that ever really got to that massive tactical bomber that thing is.
Yeah. Right off the bat, neither side really going too aggressive anywhere. The southern flank is pretty slow and steady. UUUU and also Onord getting into defensive positions. The actual plays happening up north, as Onord is using those converted gunners to, well, just clear through the forest, led by cavalry scouts.
Maybe we should take a look at these converted gunners, because there's a US version and there's a UK version, and I don't really want to come down to either side of this, but I feel like the US version gets disheartened, but they get better firepower, and the UK version is not disheartened, the stiff upper lip and all of that, but they're not really as powerful. Maybe that's just an observational bias here, but how do you say?
Yeah, the US runs are quite nice because they are very beefy and I say relatively cheap. 25 points is actually kind of expensive, but they're good and beefy. Even though they're disheartened, that's kind of a benefit if you just need them to be meat shields, because that means I get all pinned down faster, which means they're harder to hit.
By the way, first Mitchell bomb run coming on in, I think, of our entire SD2, kind of everything. And an Italian fighter is out in the field against this Focke-Wulf. And unfortunately, that Focke-Wulf, he's going to have a hard time getting out of here in one piece.
Yeah, the Italian is going to get right on him. And he's not doing any evasive maneuvers, but he's fast. He's not fast enough, it seems.
Well, he's aligning the guns. Apparently the machine guns only the 7.7, so I don't think they can actually fire here. And the Italian is, just his own speed is causing some hassles here.
Yeah.
If I'm the Focke-Wulf, I want to unload these bombs immediately, get a little bit more maneuverability out of this, but he apparently is more concerned about getting that kill.
He's really dead set on knocking out that Mitchell. Really, he probably should have buggered out, because, yeah, he is going to go down. I think that might have been from the defensive fire from the Mitchell, which is a rare sight to see.
Yeah, but the Mitchell has a lot of machine gun support fire on that. There is a fire's potential.
Yeah. And up north, we're seeing the converted gunners having to hold the line a little bit, as UUUU is starting to do a counterattack a bit with some of his hussars. And of course, in this northern region, this is a perfect spot for first Lovas with their Turans and very deadly and beefy Hungarian infantry.
Well, unfortunately, the Hungarian infantry does not do well against 500-pound bombs, though. You can see right there just a kind of, little bit of how's your mother, as they just drop crater after crater and just turn the thing into the surface of the moon.
Oh, the T-70 going to be moving up, trying to get an ambush or two. Only on the infantry, really, hopefully pops them out a little bit farther to actually do some anti-tank work. It is going to be quite deadly for both sides' tanks at, sort of engagement.
It is, but at the same time, the Terrans are really not going to be super concerned about things. I mean, the T-70 is not going to get frisky enough, I don't think, to really make it a big issue. And it looks like down south, we're having occasionally some kind of stop and start kind of movement here, but we have Hussars actually getting across that 50-yard line. We're threatening to make this something other than a 12-12, and another Focke-Wulf actually coming up to the north. Why did you do that?
Oh no.
I was waiting
He's
for the
gonna
A-20 to shoot him
off.
down.
At least he has, yeah, 40mm fire to back him up, at least.
Yes, yes.
Actually, he might have to get the kill on the Havoc here by baiting them in. But here comes the 202.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the head-to-head. You don't want to be taking that.
Yeah, he's just trying to bait him into his anti-aircraft net, which I do quite like. It's risky, but it might work. Yes, it will. But you won't be able to shoot it down.
Yeah, but I was gonna say he's got to go and actually just get out of there because he's smoking right now. Another Focke-Wulf to the northern side here. So I mean, it's kind of one of those. How do I put this mildly? I'm not sure I really appreciate some of the danger he's taking. Because the first Lovas, yes, it's got a fair number of aircraft in this deck. But you can't be throwing stuff away willy-nilly when you are the first Lovas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really want to try and keep those Focke-Wulfs alive. So you can kind of... It's weird both sides are going pretty heavy into air power early on, which is why I think we're seeing a bit more of a less aggressive play from either side, as they're definitely focusing much more in buying air power units compared to ground units. And we're just seeing both sides as kind of blowing each other up from the air and not really making much headway. We're seeing the converted gunners down south maneuvering through the forests, and they are going to be able to outgun the Hungarians in this case and probably flip that flag over.
I mean, it's going to be go back the other direction here, yeah. As the Hungarians, I mean, if the converted gunners are in the forest, you have a decent shot, but Hussars over here inside the actual trees, and the converted gunners without, yeah, that's not going to go well anytime soon.
Now, it's a very interesting matchup infantry-wise, because both sides have beefy regular infantry squads. I mean, the converted gunners are disheartened, but they have semi-autos, while the Hussaruks have lots of machine guns, while the ones with the machine guns, at least.
Sure. Well, and the BAR, yes, you have the semi-autos, you have the BAR for that nice little extra bit of seasoning overall, which I think is something that sometimes is lacking in a lot of Allied units, especially the British ones, if I can say so.
Yeah.
And just, early on, a little bit of just wet noodling back and forth. Not canoodling, by the way. I'm sure they'd probably enjoy that far more. But, yeah, people just kind of hanging out, kind of do a bit of a wet noodle contest and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. I think, especially with Onord, if he only had some A-phase Shermans, he could commit his tanks a little bit more aggressively, but with only M8 Scots, M8 Greyhounds, and, okay, also his M10s and all of that, he's playing much more defensively with his armor, not wanting to risk any engagement with the Tehran runs, because a Sherman could somewhat reasonably knock him out at CQC with a, it's a good risk, cost factor benefits, but those lightly armored American TDs and scout cars, not so much.
And I agree provisionally. T-70, I thought we had a big fireball, so I thought it was the T-70 for a second here, but that's not the case. I think I had to disagree with the whole if Shermans are here, they win moment. And that's in the wake of me understanding the majesty of the Sherman.
Not win, but help out.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Because I was going to say, you still have the 75mm, you still have the 40mm that, yes, have a smaller range, but Shidilsa, your sight lines aren't 2 kilometers in the first place, so it's not like you can go and really just kind of pound at infantry positions from long range. You actually have to get in close, which still benefits, I would argue, First Lovas.
Yeah, they do have a lot of that Tehran run spam, which does help out quite a bit. But yeah, mainly just a lot of big infantry spam. I mean, converted gunners, of course, are just the bread and butter of 45, so that's why we're seeing a lot of them being brought on out. Mitchell doing a good bombing run down south as UUUU is slowly gaining some, not major, but a decent headway in that southern flank. At least he has that flag on the crossroad under his control.
Well, and you're right. I was going to say the converted gunners up to the north, for example, are walking into a bit of a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's 4 squads of them. They're all going to get picked up one way or the other. Because the Terrans, light. I'm sorry. Go, please, please.
No, the cavalry scout needs to come in. That's all I was going to say.
True, absolutely true. And actually, I hadn't even thought about them right over there. But I just mean, the Terrans are probably one of the few lighter but still relatively effective tanks that can make a forest push almost seem like a good idea.
Yeah, that's such good bloody tanks for the price, as they have that ridiculous high rate of fire, and not great HE, but 40mm HE or 17 rounds a minute can, as you see, scare off infantry quite well, and I just love the image of those Turan runs just chasing down those American gunners. Oh, cavalry scout does get a pick off, but the damage has already been done.
It has. It has. And they're both going to go down. I mean, and that's still a great trade for this cavalry scouts. Down to the south, by the way, converted gunners. We are to phase B, just for the records. We first Sherman's moving up to the northern side. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see maybe a Junker come in once he sees those Shermans. And probably the only reason we haven't seen him until now, because he hasn't seen those Shermans.
Yeah, there's not really been any worthwhile targets for him to cluster. But we're seeing UUU push more down south of the Turans, and yeah, the lack of anti-tank is really starting to hurt Onord here, because these Turan runs are just pushing the points. Especially down south, where the really only anti-tank here right now is the M8 Greyhound, or we're seeing 2 Shermans being brought on up.
True. So 2 to the north, 2 to the south, and 81mm stovepipe. Just kind of hammering the forest, kind of just maybe clearing the way a teeny tiny bit. But
Yeah.
But 12-12, we are back to a 12-12. Unfortunately for either side, there hasn't been a lot of bleed. Probably a good thing over here, of course, for Onord. Far less positive over here for UUUU, who was building up a decent, I would say, amount of just oomph. But I think that oomph is now completely gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a thing when you play Maverick on Maverick, it's basically just playing a balance match, really. It's just slow and steady, but once you get to the C phase, things really start to grind to the halt just due to that lower income. But I don't know, both sides have... Okay, really more for UU does have cheaper units, which benefits you in that Maverick C phase, as you can still spam stuff out. But we'll just have to see how it will go. I mean, well, for Onord, he has enough gunners and Shermans to blot out the sun.
True. True, I think that might be the most I've ever seen on a card is 36. Like, that is absurd.
That's SS Shupo levels.
Now, down to the south, Shermans are making their presence felt rather significantly. 75 mil is the only thing over there that can really kind of be competitive at this moment. We did have some of the Brazilians show up to the north, and maybe after see, ooh, one of the Shermans going down here, we're going to see maybe a bit of a withdrawal? No. No, okay, there we go. Let's talk about the engineers for a second. And I'm sure I'm not giving the full kind of respect that name should really engender. 2 grease guns, 6 M1903s, and, HE shells. Yes, we've seen these guys before. I would call them discount engineers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what they are.
And that's not to take away anything from them overall. They just don't have the staying firepower. They have that kind of very quick burst, and you're going to see it over here against these Okusuks. But they just don't have good amounts of firepower otherwise.
Yeah, the boat actions definitely is a step down compared to your standard M1 Garand, but it's a 20-point satchel charge. They're kind of similar to like the British 5-man satchel charge unit. Yeah, a bit better, of course, because you have more guys in the squad, so you can survive longer, so that last guy can chuck in the nade.
True. Now, there's one CGMC to the northern side. I thought by the ground fire there's actually something down to the south as well. Not so much. And geez. I have to appreciate the 3 machine gun battalion. A battery, excuse me. Just ripping into those poor UK converted gunners. These guys were not expecting to be taking fire from up on high. It's usually their job to do that.
Yeah.
So
Great position for the machine guns, and as you see, Onord is just trying to prod all of the sectors here. Just a little bit of infantry to see the weak points. He is going to bomb that hill to smithery. Oh no, he's going to divert because of the Focke-Wulf. Anti-air's coming in. That could be a dead Mitchell.
Well, the 40 mic over here on the ground might not be enough, but the jeez. Worth mentioning, by the way, folks, he's just lost 25% of his strategic bombing force right there. That is not an inconsiderable loss.
Yeah. And we're seeing both sides just been constantly using air power. I mean, UUU bringing in the Focke-Wulfs galore, bringing in another one down south to try and bomb the Nisseys. And that's going to be a pretty good hit. Yeah, damn.
I unfortunately didn't even notice those guys were here. I mean, that squad. I think UUUU must be feeling pretty lucky that you don't get more Niseys than what you do. I would argue those squads are pretty solid.
Yeah, pretty much with Task Force 45, you're just kind of spamming converted gunners, and then you got like your more specialized troops such as the Niseys to actually provide more effective firepower, especially in the anti-tank department. And up north it's actually working quite well. The Shermans are definitely turning the tide a little bit in these tank battles. The Focke-Wulf coming in clutch, and I think UUU is going to be able to do a good counter-attack through the forest.
Well, and right now the M10 tank destroyer is really able to kind of engage at Hetzer. Very, very lucky for the M10. Very, very unlucky for the Hetzer here. But yes.
Yeah.
Now, forgive me. My history is a little bit shaky here. The Nisei, they're kind of like the Harlem Hellfighters in that, since they were American Japanese or Japanese Americans that were kind of allowed to serve, kind of fought all the harder for it. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I believe they were some of the more decorated units in the American military in the Second World War, which is quite ironic. But they fought really bloody well.
Yeah, it's one of those groups. Honestly, I actually have to include them in TF-45. I got to do some more research into them. What you were saying, please. I'm sorry.
But still, we're 17 minutes in, and it's a pretty steady trove. This is definitely going to go into a longer sea phase. But both sides do have, somewhat deep decks. More so for, of course, Onord, because you've got the sea phase infantry card, but even for Lovas, you got a whole heap of tanks and still a whole heap of infantry to call yourself onto. Oh.
Well, I'm kind of wondering if those converted gunners in the center go down, at least one flag, potentially two. I mean, more squads are being brought in now as we speak. Wait, JU-88 gonna hit the southern side. The Nisei are not gonna do pretty. Jeez, it's Battle of Bombers here. And they're engaging each other, which is, I think, adorable.
Oh god, that's just just bombing both sides. Yeah, everyone's getting bloody stand up. But the Mitchell, he's probably gonna go down. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And we're seeing in the center here. I do like. Yeah, Onord is bringing in that 105 Sherman, probably to try to ward off the machine guns, as you've seen there, falling back from the hill a little bit, not to expose himself so much, but that's not going to save him right now.
Well, I'm very much amused by the fact there's one converted gunner squad that's just been dropped off. He braved it by just rushing over the open space to kind of get up close and personal here. They're going to get carved to shreds here right after that. But, mildly amusing nonetheless. Yeah, they might be able to take this out. I haven't really done any kind of firepower test with them, so I couldn't tell you for sure.
That disheartened trade against a machine gun is not going to go well for him, as we see. And UUU is going to hold onto that hill. He really needs to bring some anti-tank into the center, and that's exactly what he's doing with a Pack 40.
Well, that's good, because he's losing more than just that right now, and it's 14-10. As the southern side has been stabilized. Again, that road forms kind of a rough 50-yard line through everything, and is very difficult to aggress anywhere outside of these two trees. On either side of that, let's call it the number 2 crossroads from the south here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're seeing cluster JU-87s being brought out, all to kill that 105 Sherman. Will they be able to make it, yo?
So it's a little bit excessive. I would have thought maybe he was going to drop anything as that. Yes, there's a CGMC to the north. Maybe drop two of them to the northern side. But hey, I mean, I'm not going to say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But
Oh,
sort of that.
first one misses.
So it's the second one too.
Oh, I think he lost line of sight and just attacked ground, so not an ideal bomb and run, yeah, at all from UU, but he does manage to bait out the 202 and shoot it down, so not worthless, to say the least.
It's not worthless, but I would be very surprised if both of these JU-87s make it out. One's smoking pretty badly. Yep, there we go.
Yep.
There we go.
It's going to buy him time to reinforce the hill at least, and he might be able to flip back at least one of these flags in the central position.
And he's got to, because if you look to the northern side, he's lost that flag as well, so it's a 15-9 against. And First Lovas, I mean, let's be fair here. First Lovas is not exactly a division known for taking back the initiative when it's been put onto its back foot.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lovich over here just continue to engage, his Terrans just continue to do their monstrous work. And I'm kind of waiting for the southern side to take a little more of an interest from an infantry. Yep, there we go. There's two squads moving in over here. Oh, no, never mind. They're 76 fives. Guess I wasn't expecting that, but okay.
Yeah, both sides is kind of... Well, more sorry to say for Onord. He's managed to build up a pretty decent tank force all over of M4s and M10s galore, even keeping that T-70 alive. I mean, UU does have a pretty decent anti-tank and anti-aircraft net as well set up, and renowned to sea phase, so things are going to start slowing down a bit. So both sides can't... I mean, they need to, of course, well, merely more for UU, make a good offensive push. But at the same time, you can't get too frisky because you don't want to lose what units you have on the battlefield currently, as they're going to be harder to replace.
But here's a question overall. Let's theorycraft for a second as this game kind of, again, takes a bit of a break. TF-45, how do you face off against them? I mean, of course, you want to make sure that you have a decent amount of anti-tank material, but how do you face off against that infantry? Just lots and lots of artillery? Lots and lots of machine guns?
There's machine guns, artillery, because those disheartened troops do fold very quickly once you do get firepower onto them, but at the same time Onord has been able to back up his infantry quite well, and we're seeing up north we got another big push, but not so much converted gunners, but Japanese and Brazilians leading the charge.
Yes. I'm just taking a quick look to see what kind of air power we have yet to see. We haven't seen a P-51. There's a lot of interceptors over here from Focke-Wulf's, the 190s. But I don't think that we're going to be seeing a whole lot of those interceptors again. I mean, 50% of the Mitchells are gone. It's an awful big expense. I think the heyday of so much of the air power has passed, at least for the Allies.
Yeah. But he is managing to at least get that ground game because he's on the 15-9 right now, investing quite a lot into the center. I think he really wants to capture that machine gun hill.
And you know, I don't know that that's really the most important thing right now. You mean hold the swamp? Yeah, by all means. Heck, hold the northern forest by all means. But unfortunately, I think he's starting to overreach himself a bit.
Yeah, it's... Well, I think if he was just to hold onto the lower slope just to capture the flag, that'd be rough roll, but of course this is where it gets pretty risky where you can overextend trying to push through the center of this map as the supply lines are pretty exposed. Up north, Focke-Wulf's trying to go for the A-20. Not going to be able to make it too much flak.
Yeah, that one CGMC is brutal. Brutal. But no, you're right. There's two squads of converted gunners. And you may have it here. I did not expect him to actually be able to get across the open field, but there's just enough firepower between the Ma Deuce. Was it the P-51? No, it's the A-20 again. Okay.
On unload. Yes. Because you better pick up the Husaruksia. And then just having that overwhelming firepower see at long range is really benefiting Onord. And of course, low fasters have a harder time in those long range battles. They do get hedges and Pack 40s, but not a whole heap of them. So you have to make them count. We're seeing UU actually countering with 76mm field guns.
Yeah, which
It's
is
kind of working.
not really something you expect to kind of see very often. Just the 76 just always seems so underpowered by comparison. But in this case, hey, if it's what you got, it's what you use.
Yeah. And it's cheap.
JU88. Green on green, here it comes.
Those converted gunners probably risk be back in the guns quite soon.
Well, they're falling back, but I think it's because at this point all you really have is your one Huzadok squad and the 75 mil that's just kind of like ambling his way slowly to the front.
Oh, another cluster bomb strike. I think he's trying to finish off those 105s, which he stressed out before. But he's going to go really deep.
And usually going that deep is a great idea. Yeah, you get one kill, congratulations, but that's not going to be. I mean, the CGMC is going to open up in a second. Yeah, that's lucky. You get very lucky on this one.
All up north, we have seen Onord bring in the big guns. He's got the 203 on-map artillery just starting to pound the positions up north. And that's definitely going to work out quite well.
He's not pounding up north. He's pounding the 76.5s.
Oh! Never mind, that was mortars I was following. But that's a good little counter battery piece, as we're seeing, because those 76s just had a very bad day.
Yeah, and even if they don't hit the 76s, they also have the Loviches that are going on in as well. See, one shot goes from 10% to like 99% stressed, which I can understand. But we continue over here. This is Division 1, so Onord and UUUU are definitely putting on a very, very different type of Maverick game. Again, usually it's Phase B, it's a win or nothing at all. But like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head before. This is a match where, really, this is balanced by another name.
Yeah, and both sides is having pretty chunky infantry divisions. Even though yes, Lovas is a tank division, it's still kind of an infantry division. It's just going to be a more slower, methodical playstyle. And as we're seeing, you know, Onord is just playing it pretty standard American style of you bring in the infantry to hold the line and you just have overwhelming fire support of tank destroyers, artillery, and air power to just do rest of the work for you. And it's working quite well. I mean, he's got the 16-8.
Then here's the question. You're the first Lovas. Where do you concentrate your efforts? We're seeing 5 squads in the kind of the southern third of the map. We see a 6th being brought in here into the center to pick up maybe that hillside again. But where do you go? Where's
It's
weak?
tough because the central position is very open, which doesn't work well for you as Lovas. Up north, there's been a lot of investment in artillery, and it's a pretty narrow choke point in the forest for the infantry to push through. So they're just going to keep getting stunned. Down south would probably be the best place right now, as it's the least defended, even though there's quite a decent amount of AT down there of the 90 mil. But even then, it's not exactly a flag-rich area. Like, the central part of this map is just so... It's a bountiful center, you know, a bountiful gooey center of the chocolate bar of Sadish, so to speak. As if you manage to get good territorial gains here, as we're seeing for Onord, it pays off dividends.
Absolutely. And you know, I think that's one thing that we haven't really talked about too often with Shield is that there are maps that don't really encourage an interesting kind of setup. And I know we see a lot of edge play on pretty much every single map we cast. But I have to appreciate the attempt here to encourage players to be more active in that central position.
Yeah, this is definitely a map that does encourage that central push. Even though terrain-wise, it's not exactly pretty, with rather open ground and swamp, so to speak. But as you see, it's, you know, you get a few flags and you get a +2.
I think it's one of those things that I don't mind if a map is not the prettiest in terms of a terrain view. I mean, I think back to the airfield fights that we had to deal with back in SD44. Where it was like, I have 149. And I have a hangar. You have now lost. Which is really, really difficult, I think, to kind of get behind. At least with this, there's the way that the flags are kind of being distributed across the field. It allows for something a little bit different.
I completely forgot about Carpiquet. It's like a great map because the town fight is so much fun, but yeah, it's also a terrible map because half of the map is kind of unusable. And it's just
Yeah.
like you're just capturing a huge chunk of it because there's nothing there.
Well, it's like congratulations, guys. You won the coin toss to figure out which way you're going on the airfield.
Yes.
So
I'm using my 1.2 kilometer support guns to snipe your Flak 88 at 1.22
yeah, yeah.
kilometers by doing a direct fire just outside of the Flak 88 range and using the high explosive radius to do the damage.
Well, and that was the thing, wasn't it? And I think that was always the flaw for a lot of those maps. Not to distract you, 1410s, we are seeing a couple of very tentative flags being taken away. That hilltop position was going well until the 105 tournament.
Yeah. It's just the Onord is pointed as an overwhelming amount of firepower and really good use of artillery, especially against UUU, where, you know, he has big, beefy infantry squads, which are scary, but when you're getting hit by an 81mm or a 203mm artillery gun, you're not going to perform that well. And UUU's artillery doesn't really hold up to snuff compared to the American stuff.
No, no, unfortunately it does not. You maybe want to take this to a ×2. Call that 3130.
I think that's fair.
All right. And kind of as we start to kick up the tempo a little bit here, you can just kind of see so often with those American divisions, if you can kind of stymie of so much of that material coming in, it sets yourself up for a very, very successful kind of, let's say, counterattack yourself. Unfortunately, if you allow the 90 mils to kind of get set up and you allow all the 105s and the CGMCs, I mean, the CGMC, I would argue, is probably the reason that the air power has been so kind of impotent here.
Yeah. Yep, especially later on, see now, Focke-Wulf right now just got shot down. But once you get all those support guns online for Task Force 45, they become an absolute powerhouse. And with the relatively cheap meat shields which they have, they can, you know, it's hammer and anvil.
Oh, very much.
Kind of, but less flanky and more just, you know, the anvils, well, the hammer's behind you, and it's a 203mm artillery gun, and it's just kind of pounding Hungarian positions. And the hammer, and the anvil's just a bunch of, like, not so happy anti-aircraft gunners. And there's a lot of anti-aircraft gunners in Italy, apparently.
It certainly seems to be that case. I'm sorry, I just watched it as a battery of 76 fives took out a full supply truck. So the Lovas will probably go down here, but they will get their pound of flesh. Unfortunately, pound of flesh doesn't have the same exchange rate it might in Britain. But that's the sterling pound of flesh, which is a very different kind of discussion altogether.
Re-ray our flesh by stone, thank you.
Sure, exactly.
I'll have a stone of flesh, please.
Oh man,
no, not stone of flesh, just a stone of flesh.
How did if I? Is that like a D&D moment? If I turn flesh to stone, I make money by doing that, or?
Depends what type of stone.
I suppose. Yeah, well, I mean, that's fair.
Marble, you make loads.
It sounds pretty accurate. There's a dad joke that's certainly coming to mind right now, but seeing as how I'm not, entertaining any tiny little comments right now. We are going to see, of course, though, minor victory over here. Well done to Onord. The KD, very, very similar, and I feel like part of that was picked up over here at the last little bit, as there's kind of, let's say, feisty kills as he goes down.
Yeah. Yeah, but he did hold his own, but, yeah, like pretty much like in the cast, just, that firepower from the Americans just allowed him to gain the territory and just the open ground advantage in the center.
Well, and like you said, I mean, at the end of it, you want to be able to kind of get that flesh to stone idea, and I suppose you could certainly think of it that way, as long as you don't take it for granted.
There we go.
There's a brick joke coming around, but
you know how to rock and roll.
Oh, absolutely. Nisei rifles over here picking up a couple of Terrans. I mean, TF-45 just kind of doing a lot of trading here, and that's exactly what infantry fights tend to be.
Mm-hmm.
Trades back and forth. Even more so.
Anything, like, fancy. Hungarians is all sharing the glory, so to speak, or labour, depending on how you want to look at it.
Well, not labor. I mean, at that point, we have to kind of have a long talk. I was saying with Ceausescu, but he's Romania, so. Um, but regardless, Nicene TF45 have a good opening over here. Folks, though, if you are making a deck with them, remember Sherman's in A phase.
Yeah, remember that.
Um,
Very important.
oh, absolutely. Um, any other thoughts, though, sir?
No,
In that case, then, folks, until Thursday, this is Conal Work.
I'm Rangru. Take it easy.